Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the Online Series 9 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the last episode, we used this really fun ranked number 1 Alolan Marowak team, so we play a couple more games with it today. Once again, thank you to Jay Modry for the team. Details are in the description below with a rental and a paste. And yeah, thanks so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. This team's been really enjoyable. We went up against 2 Gigas teams yesterday, so hopefully get a little bit more diversity in terms of the team matchups. But the matches yesterday were really intense. So yeah, thanks as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, with us a few weeks into Series 9, which is obviously the same format as Series 7, but you know, there have been some new meta developments. I'm curious on a scale of 1 to 10 how much you're enjoying it so far. Personally, I'd probably give it, 5 or a 6. I'm still definitely enjoying it, but Series 8 was like more exciting just because it was like a completely brand new format that I'd never really played in VGC before. And Series 9 we've already had some experience with. So curious on your thoughts in the comment section below. It's been a kind of a frustrating start to the day for me here. I tried to record 2 games, and in both of them my Wi-Fi disconnected after like turn 1 or turn 2, so I reset my router. My computer also crashed while I was trying to do the second game, so hopefully we can get a stable recording here. But yeah, sometimes technical difficulties can be a major pain to deal with. So first matchup of the day here. As always, I have to ask myself how good Marowak is, and the answer is, pretty solid. Landorus actually looks really good here. It's probably Water Urshifu if I had to guess. Also, as you can see, I kind of edited the camera to make it look a little bit brighter and more vibrant, so hopefully that shines through. Togekiss is really interesting here. Porygon's like a little bit passive, but they also don't have any normal resist, so Tri-Attack actually does sizable damage across the board. Part of me is leaning towards Lando Swords Dance early on, Marowak and Fini in the back, but Porygon does seem like kind of a staple here. I mean, I could play passively and go Grim Porygon Marowak, right? I think I am going to go Grim, Lando. Yeah, you know what? Let's try out Marowak and Fini. With this, I have 3 potential max options, which makes things a little bit dynamic. So my fingers are crossed right now. 1, the Wi-Fi doesn't drop, and 2, my computer doesn't crash. If we can get through those, I'll be happy enough. So pretty cool team from my opponent's end. I mean, it's definitely got a fair share of offense and bulk, right? Umbreon is just kind of a tough Pokemon to deal with in general. It's going to be Entei and Umbreon. Okay. This is pretty interesting because I actually don't want to Swords Dance with Landorus because Umbreon can just go for a foul play. But you know what we can do turn 1, which is kind of cool? I can actually double inner focus here. Obviously no surprise, that's the ability you typically run, but pretty funny to see. I'm down to actually just Spirit Break and Superpower. Oh wait, we don't have Superpower on this, never mind. Then what do I want to do? Because I think we're probably going to get hit by a foul play. I could switch into Fini with relative ease. I could also Rock Slide here. But like, if I'm my opponent, I don't know. It feels like a double up onto Lando. Foul play, Sacred Fire makes a lot of sense. So I kind of want to go Spirit Break and switch Lando out into Fini. We could max Marowak in this game too if we eliminate the Umbreon. Although Urshifu is going to be a problem regardless of which form it is. Fini is also valuable for us in this game just because it sets up Misty Terrain, which means no burns on Grimmsnarl and also means no potential sleeps from Umbreon with Yawn. I did not see that max coming. Oh, wow. Okay. I don't think that's actually too much of an issue, but that is a bold play. Wow. I mean, this honestly isn't bad for us at all, depending on if they targeted Land. You would think they targeted Landorus, right? Max Flare foul play? What? Is it Iron Tail? Is that the steel type attack it gets? Or Iron Head? One of the 2, I assume? Oh, wow. I mean, it's still not the end of the world for us, honestly, but I did not see that coming. Foul play? Okay, I was like, there's no way they doubled up into Grimmsnarl, right? That would be wild. Honestly, that's not even that bad of a turn 1 for us thing, because we survived, which is critical, right? Which means I get a reflect off, but That is not how I expected turn 1 to play out. Let me tell you that much. It's probably AV Entei then. Let's set up a Reflect here. There's no point in Calm Minding, to be honest, because they're just going to drop our stats with Snarl from Umbreon. So it just makes more sense to Moonblast here. Honestly, this isn't that bad for us, because I just bring in Lando back in, right? And actually, if Moonblast is a 2-hit KO onto Lando, this is actually sick, because I can bring in Landorus and then Swords Dance on the turn that I KO the Umbreon so that it can't Foul Play me. You just always have to assume Foul Play on Umbreon. Like, Umbreon is a pretty telegraph Pokemon with Foul Play, Yawn, Snarl, Moonlight, Protect, combination of those. So it's not like there's any surprises here, but it's still just a very bulky Pokemon and it's tough to deal with, right? That's a really good amount of damage from Moonblast, so even after they Yawn... If they're yawning there, that implies that Entei has a way to change the terrain. I could see being Special Entei with Max Overgrowth? It's just so weak, though. Because what I want to do is just go into Landorus, Moonblast into Umbreon, and Swords Dance. Because even if you change the terrain, once Landorus Swords Dances, how do you beat it? And if they can't change the terrain, then I don't know what the purpose of that was. Let's see. What are the terrains you could change into? Grass and Psychic. The only explanation would be Max Overgrowth on that Entei. I don't think that makes that much sense. Even if it is, though, it's not that much of an issue, admittedly. Yeah, I really do want to just go for a Swords Dance here. And a Moonblast into the Umbreon. Oh, they're going to switch out into Rillaboom. I don't know why I didn't think about that harder. Okay, I should have definitely switched Fini out then, because this was, yeah, super... I don't know why I was so hard locked on them being able to change the terrain just via Entei. Because obviously, yeah, they can pull it off with... Oof, okay, that's actually... It's not good for us. A switch there would have been really good. It's still, like, far from over, but I really don't like the play that I just made. I just didn't... I don't know why I didn't think about the Rillaboom switching. Like, if we had just switched into Marowak here, we'd actually be in pretty good shape. Now the problem is, like, Sacred Fire plus Grassy Glide into our Lando slot. Might just do too much damage. So that was a really smart play. One in which the better play, honestly, was probably to just switch Fini out, max Airstream into Umbreon there. Because then we take so much less damage. We'd have KO'd Rillaboom on the switch in. That would have been a game-winning play, actually. So I'm just going to max here. I'm going to go for the Airstream here onto Rillaboom and switch this out into Marowak. Because with Rillaboom out of the way, I'm just worried about Sacred Fire now in Sun plus Grassy Glide from Rillaboom being enough to one-shot Lando here. That would be a big problem. Giving Marowak a speed boost is like kind of nice, but it's not that important. I mean, we still have Reflect up, right? So like, I would think we would survive, and they can't burn us because we have Lum as well, so that's also good. But that was a really masterful turn, and I don't know. I don't know why I was so hard locked on thinking it was only Umbreon, or sorry, only Entei that could change the terrain. Like the Rillaboom switching was so telegraphed as soon as they went for Yawn, right? So should have played around that a little bit better. Okay, yeah, there's no way Sacred Fire KOs here as long as they don't crit. Okay, good. They get the burn, but it's okay. We have Lum. And I had to knock out Rillaboom here because it has priority, right? Whereas Entei doesn't have priority. Oh, it could have Extreme Speed, actually. But I don't think E-Speed KOs us from the range that we're at. Fini is also very good in this endgame. The only problem is that I haven't taken any sleep turns with it yet, right? I don't even know if Marowak at +2 will outspeed my opponent's team. I don't think you can bring out Umbreon right now, because if you do, I just double KO. So you have to bring out your 4th Pokemon right now. So big question is, what is that 4th option? Yeah, either way, this could have been a max game for Marowak. I'd expect Urshifu. No, they actually bring Umbreon back out. That's actually very surprising to me. Do I outspeed right now with Marowak? 66? No way. We don't outspeed Umbreon, right? If I get another Airstream, though, we should. So, like, the play I want to go for here is max Airstream into Entei and Flare Blitz into Umbreon. My only fear is +2 Airstream doesn't KO Entei, but that seems kind of unlikely. So let's see. Oh, wow, that is bulkier than I thought it would be. Maybe Marowak would have outsped with just one speed boost. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's bulky citrus. Huh. They're still faster, too. That's really not good. That is... Oh, because of the defense boosts. Forgot about that. Yeah, then the play, I guess, was to just max Quake Flare Blitz here. Yeah. I'm expecting their last one to be Urshifu, which is interesting. Marowak even at +2 isn't going to outspeed. Let's see what it is. Although if it was Urshifu, why wouldn't you bring that out first? What's it going to be? It's Togekiss, okay. Well, that's a huge deal, because I don't know if my opponent can really damage Marowak right now. Marowak's actually... Marowak Fini is so good for us right now. But I feel like I definitely made a bunch of misplays in this game. Yeah, I forgot about the +2 defense on this thing. Just because, Entei going for Steel Spike is so rare. I just, this is why it's always good to double-check your opponent's stats each turn. I still try and get into the habit of actually doing that. Either way, I'm down to just Calm Mind and Flare Blitz here. Flare Blitz and Sun should one-shot Togekiss. And then... Yeah, they just go for Iron Head onto Fini. Okay, yeah, that does no damage. And we outspeed. Beautiful. So getting the speed boost on a Marowak here was really valuable. But the reason why I don't like how I played this game is because if my opponent had Dark Urshifu in the back... Now, I don't even know if the Urshifu's Dark or Water, right? But if they had it in the back, this was probably going to be a loss. Just because it would still outspeed Marowak, and then you would one-shot. Well, then it comes down to how quickly Fini wakes up, but it's still tough, right? So the obvious play I could have made against Entei was max Quake into Flare Blitz. Quake would have just K. Actually, I don't even know if Quake would have K. Yeah, it would have, right? Airstream did over half, and it would have been super effective damage. Yeah. So if I just Quaked into Entei, Flare... I just totally forgot about the defense boost. If I Quaked there... The reason I was hesitant was because I was worried about Umbreon getting a Moonlight off, right? Because dealing with that would be pretty difficult. So I wanted to just try to pick up a double KO. Was Quake better there? Then if you... Yeah, okay, Quake is better. Because even if it Moonlights, I still Flare Blitz into you. And if you go for Foul Play, you only knock out one of the two Pokemon. Yeah, so that was definitely the better play. Either way, we can just go for Shadow Bone. Marowak was actually so good as cleanup in this game, though, so shoutouts to it. And they're just going to go for Iron Head once again. Yeah, I mean, Entei didn't do enough damage, right, in this early game, and that was the main thing. As soon as they commit their Dynamax, that's pretty good for us. Fini burns another turn of sleep, but there's just no way Entei can deal damage into Fini at this point. But I made two pretty big misplays in this game. I think turn 1 actually worked out really well for us. As soon as my opponent committed a Dynamax and didn't get very much damage across the board, we were actually in really good shape. The two mistakes, one was not anticipating the Rillaboom switch in. Like I said, I could have accelerated the battle just by maxing Landorus. My hesitation in maxing Landorus is because they could have their Lando in the back, right? But if I had just maxed Landorus and Airstreamed the Umbreon slot that turn while switching out into Marowak, that actually is like a game-winning play, basically. Now, it doesn't always win the game because my opponent still has a bunch of different plays. Actually, there's no reason to risk missing Muddy Water, just Moonblast here and Shadow Bone. My opponent can't do enough damage, so we just go for 100% consistent attacks. And yeah, I mean, you can see Entei just can't touch Tapu Fini here. So as soon as Rillaboom was out of the way, Fini was actually really good for the late game. And Shadow Bone there is enough. So nice job, Marowak. I did not play this game perfectly by any means, but that's the thing about Pokemon, right? You don't necessarily need to play perfectly. But a game like this is good because you reflect on it. It's like, okay, we won, that's great, but there were also a lot of better plays we could have made. Mainly the two turns, one in which we got hit by Yawn. I don't know why Tunnel Vision so hard on Entei changing the terrain when they had a Rillaboom in the back. I just didn't even think about that, which I'm sure was kind of funny for you all while you were watching. And then the second better play I could have made was going for Max Quake, and but I don't... Yeah, no, never mind. I think Max Quake is still the right play there. Actually, I just want to double check Umbreon's speed stat. Because if we outspeed we are at 66, right? So 66 speed. Because if we outspeed at +1, then it never makes sense to Airstream. I just didn't think we'd outspeed at +1. So I want to check how fast Umbreon gets, too. Because I don't remember its base speed off the top of my head. So Umbreon, 50... Oh, if you don't have any speed, actually, yeah, we would have outsped. It only hits 85, so 99 would have outsped it. You would actually need, yeah, there's no way. So it was always to Max Quake Flare Blitz. We already outsped Umbreon at that point, and then that would have just picked up a double KO. The game would have instantly been over there. The reason why that's really critical is because in that position, it's unlikely either of my opponent's Pokemon will protect. And in the end, they didn't have Urshifu, but like, let's say my opponent brought their best 4 Pokemon and brought Urshifu over Togekiss. We would have lost that game probably if they had it over Togekiss. So that's why I'm thinking about this, because like, yeah, we won, but like if my opponent had made a different Pokemon choice-wise, that likely would have been a loss, and so I could have made plays. So even if they had the most optimal Pokemon, we would have won the game anyway. Although I guess if they had Urshifu, they just would have brought it out first over Umbreon. So then that also makes things interesting. Either way, it was always to Max Quake and Flare Blitz there. I just forgot about the double defense boost on the Entei. But that was certainly an interesting match. So let's look for our next game here. Fortunately, my computer did not crash. My Wi-Fi did not drop in that one. So happy about that at least as we get into the next match here. All right, for our next game, a lot of meta staples right now in Garchomp and Celesteela. So love to see that. Rotom is a problem. This is tricky, because it's like, if you look at like the bottom half of my opponent's team, it's like, oh, Grimmsnarl, Amoonguss, Kartana, Rotom, what's really good against all of those? Kartana. But then you look at the top and it's like, but then they have Celesteela, really one of the best Kartana answers in the format right now. Even if it doesn't have Flamethrower, it just walls you, but with Flamethrower, you kind of just obliterate it. This is going to be a hard one, especially with Amoonguss support, I think. I kind of want to play towards Swords Dance Landorus here. Like, Grim, Lando, Marowak. Kartana's really consistent to deal with Rotom. But I think it's just so hard to position this thing because they're going to have Incineroar. I don't want to max it because they have Celesteela. But if I don't max it, it's so weak to the Fire-type attacks. So I'm thinking we go Grim, Lando, Marowak, Fini here. I mean, Fini can theoretically Calm Mind up in front of Celesteela. It's pretty valuable against Garchomp Incin as well. And it has terrain so that you can't Spore with Amoonguss. And we have the Lum on Landorus, so Amoonguss can't do very much for at least one turn. The plan I'm thinking of right now is to get a Swords Dance off with Landorus and beat everything other than Celesteela and save Marowak for Celesteela in the endgame. But I think that, like, this one's kind of tricky because I don't feel, like, amazing going into this game. Because that game plan is, like, pretty shaky, to be honest. Let's see. Alright, Rotom Incineroar. I don't mind that too much. The only fear now is what do you do with Rotom turn 1? Like, they could just straight up max Geyser. So, like, the play I want to make is, if they're Nasty Plot, like, fake out Rotom and Swords Dance. It's just risky, because if they know this team, this is the other issue. If they know this team, then they know that I'm not AV, which means it makes more sense to Geyser us. So I lean towards fake out Rotom and Swords Dance, but there's a lot that can go wrong here if they max Rotom. It's just frustrating because let's say they actually max Rotom. What we could have done was just like max Quake turn 1. I don't know. This play could actually be a game winning play, but it also could just be a game losing play on turn 1. And you typically don't want to have that kind of variance on the first turn of the game. But well, what's a better play given the Pokemon I brought here? Fake out Rotom, switch into Fini probably. Oh, interesting. So Rotom didn't max. Their Incineroar was faster than Grim, so they got the fake out into Grim. But Rotom's not maxing, which makes me think it's nasty plotting. Oh gosh. Yeah, I had no counterplay to that. Even if I switched into Fini, Rotom's just too good against us. Now the thing is, I can easily Light Screen and Max Quake this turn. Incin switching out into Celesteela here is pretty probable, actually. You know what I actually want to do? I want to Max Guard Landorus, Spirit Break into Rotom, because I think now it definitely maxes and you just Geyser into Lando. So that buys me a turn and drops their special attack, and then I can Light Screen the next turn, and it covers for a switch. Yeah, it's like, the Swords Dance boost isn't even that. Yep, I think the Celesteela coming in. There it is. Okay, good thing that I didn't blow the Quake here, but like, so this is kind of a waste of a max on my end, it feels like. Now, ideal. I mean, if they Geyser, like, it's not the end of the world. Well, actually, if they Geyser into Grimmsnarl, it's very bad. I went for Spirit Break over Light Screen with the expectation that they're targeting Lando in this position, but it would be very smart of them to target Grim. Here's the issue, right? Like, my opponent's team is really well constructed. If I brought Kartana out, yeah, it deals with Rotom, but, like, it's so weak into Incineroar and Celesteela. So this is the perfect example of good team building, right? You have stuff that counters what would counter a specific Pokemon. What were my other Rotom answers in this game? I don't feel like I have great ones, to be honest. Porygon. Porygon with Eerie Impulse was it. So that could have been an angle. Okay, Max Guard. Wow. Oh, that's a great play. The reason why this is also a smart play is because it just covers, like, you're normally expecting me to Max Quake there. Into the Celesteela. So it's like, even if I got an attack off there, it'd be at best a +1 Rock Fall into Rotom. And now I don't even get Light Screen up, which is a disaster. So, I mean, this has basically been perfect play on my opponent's end. I can't really see a way to come back from this, to be honest. Yeah, it's too tough, I think. I had to make a big play this last turn, so I don't regret going for that, but this was kind of a Pokemon selection issue. Like, I basically needed Eerie Impulse Porygon as a lead. So if I were to play this differently, what would I go? Probably Grim, Porygon, Marowak, and then play towards Marowak under Trick Room, but then they have Intimidate. It's just not an easy matchup one way or the other. I guess Porygon needed to come out here. I mean, or Kartana, but Kartana doesn't feel like it's actually the answer. I mean, I can Rock Fall the Rotom here, Calm Mind, I guess, but... Okay, this game actually technically isn't over, especially with Tapu Fini and Calm Mind, so... But I think +2 Geyser should just one-shot Lando. Yeah, Nasty Plot Rotom accelerates things so quickly. Okay, they switch out. Back out into Incineroar, yeah, that makes sense. Oh. If I had Max Quaked into the Celesteela slot to get a special defense boost, how sick would that have been? That's way too hard of a play to make, I think. But I guess this game feels like it's lost already, to be honest, so maybe it was just worth going for that. Anyway, I think my opponent has basically played a perfect game, and if I set up Light Screen last turn, things might have been a little bit easier for us. Now, we're actually faster with Fini than their Rotom, which is actually very interesting. That maybe gives us a potential out. I don't think Lando takes a Geyser here, but if it survives, that'd actually be huge for us. But I'm guessing Rotom has less speed and more special attack. Yeah, with Light Screen, I think maybe we could have survived that, but I went all in on the Spirit Break play. Because if they had actually Geysered into Landorus there, right, I get Spirit Break, then I Light Screen the next turn, and their rain isn't up, and I go for Rock Fall. And we had cover for Celesteela, the Celesteela switch in. So it was just really smart of my opponent to read into the potential Protect. And I think a lot of players would be baited in just knocking out Landorus in front of them at that point in the game. So kudos to my opponent. Porygon and Kartana definitely... I don't know. I think Kartana's too difficult to use in this game, to be honest. Okay, I actually think we can still win. Well, if you're my opponent, you just go fake out Fini, Max Geyser into Marowak, right? I could just Protect with Fini, but I'd rather not, so I can... I think, yeah, the way we win this, I think, is crit Moonblast on Rotom this next turn, as it's the last turn of their Dynamax. Yeah, there's Fake Out. Grimmsnarl being slower than Incineroar also really cost us in the beginning of the game, unfortunately. But I think this is potentially winnable if Incin doesn't have a Dark-type attack. Never mind, that just one-shots us. Oh my gosh. Rotom, my old friend. See, it's big brain, though. You can't miss Will-O-Wisp if you're not running Will-O-Wisp. And Nasty Plot Rotom was really good in, early VGC 2020. I don't really regret most of the plays I made in this game. It just felt like we couldn't do very much. The only thing I could have done differently was Light Screen. Wait, I can actually play towards accuracy drops instead. I think that's the better route. Because maybe Muddy Water actually KOs. Like, if Muddy Water KOs Incin... Wait, I'm sorry. Is it a speed tie? Wow. Jeez. Yeah, Rotom put on a clinic here. I think I needed to bring Nasty Plot Eerie Impulse Porygon. It just, felt way too passive, but you saw how Rotom just completely obliterated me. So, like, I could have gone Grim Porygon, fake out Eerie Impulse. I just don't even see that good of a path to victory beyond that. So, yeah. I mean, that was a good example of, one, I think the matchup being tough, two, my opponent playing basically a perfect game, and three, the power of setup, right? Lando Cortana? I just can't think of a good lead. Instant Rotom covers for everything, so the best option I could have gone is Grim Porygon, but then I don't really know how, like, what the game plan there is, right? Because I can't really, like, it's easy to say position for a Marowak sweep, but with Instant being able to swap out and back in for Intimidates, like, that's super valuable for my opponent, so, yeah. Rotom, I guess, I think Rotom, if it was just Rotom, like, that's not the issue. It's Rotom plus Incineroar plus Celesteela, because that meant that I couldn't bring in Cortana very easily. So, yeah. Well played by my opponent. Really, really well played. Okay, for the next team here, Double Horse, Whimsicott, Dracozolt, Fini, and Incineroar. So no ground resists, but they obviously have some Pokemon that can hit Lando for super effective, namely Glastrier. Kind of want to go the Trick Room route here. Although I guess Glastrier could be pretty scary. I don't think Cortana comes out. Fini doesn't seem great, especially into Zolt. So I'm thinking like Grim, just go Grim Porygon, Marowak, Lando. Okay, I'm down to play towards that. I just really don't know. That last game. Okay, I think it had to have been Grim Porygon. We at least set up screens. Okay, I know what it is. It's Grim Porygon, Marowak, Fini. That's how we played the last game. We don't even bring Landorus out. Because, like, the thing is, Landorus gave us no incremental value, right? Like, yeah, Swords Dance is nice, but then they already intimidated us, and then they just, like, brought us back to neutral immediately anyway. So that, if I were to replay my opponent in that last game, I'd go with those four. It's still a really tough matchup, to be honest, but at least it gives us a fighting chance because the Eerie Impulses can deny the Nasty Plots, and you just keep canceling them out. The problem is that with Grim and Porygon out on the field, I have to eventually make a hard switch if my opponent isn't KOing me, right? And it's very easy to nail in Fini or Marowak on the switch in. It's going to be Whimsicott and Spectrier. Okay, I mean, here's the question now. We ask ourselves, what is the Spectrier set? Is it support Taunt, or is it just going to Dynamax on us turn 1? Pretty easy to fake out. That's not who we want to fake out. Pretty easy to fake out Whimsicott. I feel like it's probably double Taunt here, but we don't get that much value out of a Tri-Attack anyway, so I'm just going to click Trick Room anyway. And if it happens to not be support Spectre, great. I think it probably is, though, to be honest. Like, that would explain this lead the most. You wouldn't want to lead offensive Spectre into... But, like, I still want to fake out Whimsicott here because I don't want to get hit by a Trick Eject Button strat. So, yeah. Oh, they max. Okay, great. Wait, unless it's max Whimsicott? No way, though. That would be wild, just to bypass fake out. Okay, they max Spectre. That's really good for us, honestly, because it's like, hey, I just KO deny Whimsicott from attacking. I get Trick Room up. I guess the only thing is whether or not I actually want to worry about Encore. Because that could be how my opponent did, like, reverses Trick Room. But actually, I don't even know if you'll KO either Pokemon right now. And they go for Max Strike. I think we should survive on either. Ah, they just target Porygon. Okay, great. Yeah, that's totally fine with me. I think we should be able to play a little bit aware of Encore, to be honest. So, like, I do want to switch Porygon out this next turn. Like, I don't want to take any unnecessary risks. Because if Trick Room... Yeah, let's just Light Screen here and switch Porygon out. There's no way they Phantasm into Porygon or Marowak here, so I think I'm going to just switch out. Although I guess this is risky, because I could see from my opponent's perspective, they're like, oh no, Trick Room went up. I'm just going to, if they have Encore, I'm going to Encore and Phantasm the Marowak slot. But that would just be wild. Alright, they switch out, that's fine. Maybe Glastrier coming in? Yep. I think we're in really good shape. Yeah, this is fantastic. We get a free Light Screen up. Now, I don't know the item on the Spectrier. I think Sash actually would make a lot of sense. But I'm kind of down to just Spirit Break, Max Marowak, and Phantasm into it, I think. High horsepower from this is going to hurt, but it's not really going to KO. Yeah, I'm down for this. I just want to cover for Sash Spectrier because I don't want to allow it to get a Phantasm off into us. And they have no switch-ins right now. Oh, they have Incineroar, actually. You could switch Spectrier out. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, they're going for it. Nicely done. I think that's Incineroar coming in. Yep. Good switch. Very good switch. Still feel okay about this, though, because your Glastrier is not doing that much damage to us. We also get a defense drop, so it basically negates the Intimidate, and I can just reflect Grimmsnarl, Max Flare, Glastrier next turn. So I don't even feel that bad about this turn. But really, really good awareness by my opponent to realize, hey, I have to switch Spectrier out right now. Because if they just gave up Spectrier there for free, I think the game's just instantly over. So they've maneuvered around Trick Room pretty well. I don't mind respecting Encore just because I think way too few people actually respect that as an offensive option these days. It's just high horsepower. Yeah, it does less than half, which is really critical here. Guess the question is whether or not Incineroar actually has a dark type attack. That'd be interesting. But I'm happy to just reflect Max Flare this next turn. Because at this point, like, this is why knowing all of your opponent's Pokemon is valuable, right? Now I know that they have no switch it into a Max Flare, right? Because what's in the back? It's going to be Whimsicott or Spectrier. But I think my opponent is playing out of... Trick Room is not exactly the easiest matchup for them, and they're getting around it quite nicely. So I'm going to go Reflect here and just Flare. And I think even if... Like, Instinct here might Fake Out. If they don't, and they double up onto Marowak, I think we probably survive with Reflect being up. Also, if Glastrier is out of the way, that paves the way for Landorus in the end game, right? Because I can just click Earthquake a bunch. I just don't know the item. It's not eject button on Whimsicott, so it's either Koba or Sash most of the time. And then Spectrier is the big question mark, because it had Max Guard, so it's not like something like Assault Vest. It's not Life Orb. Okay, so they're not going to go for Fake Out, which means we get Reflect Up, which makes me think they're doubling up onto Whack here. There's high horsepower. Yeah, a Dark type attack's not going to KO us, I don't think. And more importantly, we get the Flare to KO the Glastrier, which is perfect. Beautiful. That's why I wasn't too worried about a potential Incineroar switching, because, like, yeah, you intimidate us, but I get a defense drop anyway. That's really critical. Okay, that's gone. And they Parting Shot. Okay, even better. No, that's pretty smart, though, right? Because you're going to bring Marowak down to... We're already at -2, and you just bring Incin back in for -3. But the reality is that Whimsicott and Spectre are so frail. Even if you intimidate Alolan Marowak, like with us Dynamax and us having Thick Club, it doesn't actually care that much about it. Still just thinking about that second game. Like, my opponent played perfectly. And, yeah, I mean, it goes to show, right? Like, Pokemon is about your team and your battle. Yeah, sorry. That was... that did not come out the way I intended to. What I meant is it's, you know, like your team is a big component of it. How you battle and execute is also a big component of it. And it was just my opponent like taking a good matchup and running away with it fully. Like they literally played, I think, perfectly. I don't think they could have really done anything differently, quite frankly. Okay, so Incin comes back in. We still have one more turn of Max. You could obviously Fake Out Grim right now. We've already set up both screens. I have P2 in the back. How many turns of Trick Room are left? There's only one. Okay, I'm down to switch out Grimmsnarl into Porygon. Or we could just stay in Spirit Brick, actually. I kind of like that more. I think Spectre probably protects in this position. Actually, if we expect Spectre to protect, going into Porygon's pretty easy. They might Flare Blitz, though. And I want Porygon healthy, I think. Yeah. I think I'm willing to just Spirit Break and Phantasm here, even though I expect Spectre to protect this turn. If it doesn't, great. But if it does, not the end of the world. Yeah, it does go for Protect, but that's fine, like I said. Because I want the free switching into Porygon and Landorus, basically. And Phantasm's still going to do a sizable amount. Probably like 25-30%. More importantly, breaks a potential Focus Sash. Yep, right around the money there. Gets a defense drop as well. Yeah, I don't know. If I switch into Porygon there, how much value do I actually get out of it? Like, the main thing is that we still have screens, right? My opponent also doesn't have that much good offense. What? Oh, it's Fling Whimsicott. Oh my... It's Fling Patea. It's like the Calyrex Shadow Rider strat. Oh my gosh. That makes so much more sense. Okay. Got a defense drop. I'm at -2 attack. I have light screen up. Let's not panic. I'm down to just Spirit Break, Spectrier, Detect right now. Lando wins us the end game. And, like, Spectrier is still a Pearl Pokemon, right? So, like, it's still okay, but, like, that is so cool. I thought we had this in the bag for sure, but that weakness policy gives it a little bit of extra added firepower here. Now, the thing is, like, Spirit Break just brings you down to +1, right? And, like, the thing that my opponent has to play around is me switching out Marowak. Because you actually don't have a... Like, if you go for Shadow Ball, I can switch into Porygon. If you go for Mud Shot, I can switch into Lando. And they opt for Mud Shot, yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Pretty good damage from Spirit Break there, all things considered, honestly. Okay. Fake out onto Grimmsnarl here seems likely, but they might also just be willing to Flare Blitz. I'm down to just switch out double switch here, Lando and Porygon. And the reason for this is because I want to reset those Intimidates on Grimmsnarl, because Grimmsnarl's Spirit Break actually should win us, not win us the game, but it should, you know, just do a lot of damage in a Spectre, especially with the defense drops. I want to reset those Intimidates. Either way, wow, that's probably what my opponent was going for on turn 1 too, right? Although even a +2 Max Strike I don't think would have KO'd Porygon. It just didn't do very much damage at all. So my opponent was probably going Fling. But if it's Patea Berry, you get a special, yeah, +3, you probably KO Porygon. I don't know why I didn't even think about that, because we literally had used this strategy with Calyrex Shadow Rider recently. Not recently, I mean, I guess it's been like a couple weeks at this point, but still. So cool, so cool. I just didn't see that coming at all. But I think we're still in pretty good shape, honestly. Yeah, I mean, Mud Shot and Porygon, like, you're at +1, but I have Light Screen up, so it's really not doing that much. There's Fake Out onto the Lando switch in, perfect. And they go for Shadow Ball, even better. Okay, nice. So, yeah, this is why I wasn't, like, panicking, but it was certainly quite scary. We probably just go set up Trick Room, right? Like, I'm down to just Earthquake here and Trick Room. Actually, let's not get greedy. Does Earthquake Trick Room work? What am I nervous about? Shadow Ball, you'd have to crit. You'd have to get double crits here, honestly. So, yeah, I think Earthquake Trick Room is fine. Yeah, they just go for Shadow Ball. They're at +1, but we have Light Screen up, so we should survive this, barring a crit. Perfect. Yeah, Earthquake just double KOs now. The reason I went for Earthquake Trick Room is because it just covers for all of our options, right? Like, let's say my opponent actually crits me onto the Lando there. They would need a double crit to win the game, basically. And the odds of that are so slim. They would need a Shadow Ball crit and then a Flare Blitz crit into Porygon as well. Because, like, let's say you crit the Shadow Ball, but then I get Trick Room up. It's still game over, right? Because at that point, I bring in Marowak. And actually I have Grimmsnarl for Spirit Break as well. So we have enough damage. And my opponent doesn't have great damage into Porygon. So I think what they were going for turn 1 was Fling Patea Berry into Weakness Policy Spectrier to get it to +3 special attack immediately and try to knock out Porygon with a +3 Max Strike. But instead, because of the Fake Out, they got no special attack boost. So, but they like played really well considering how much of a deficit they were at, to be honest. Like the Spectre switch into the Incin, Max Guard turn 2, switching in, protecting, letting me activate the policy. But in the end, they just didn't have enough firepower here, right? Which was the main upside for us. So we can just Rock Slide, try attack now. Yeah. So this game is a lot closer, I would say, than the scoreline indicates, and my opponent certainly brought it back. Because it feels like after turn 1, like we really should have just won the game for sure. But they certainly had a lot of cool tricks up their sleeve, which I was not anticipating most of those. And yeah, with Whimsicott Spectrier, like we had used that strategy with Calyrex Shadow Rider in Series 8, so that's something that you might want to watch out for a little bit more now. Because it's funny, I don't think we had ever used a similar like policy strat in Series 7, but the turn that they went Mudshot into the Protect and I got the Spirit Break off, like that's what I was trying to go for in Game 2 with the Rotom. But it was so smart for my opponent. Like, it makes so much sense in Game 2 for my opponent to Geyser into Grimmsnarl, because like Grimmsnarls very rarely, if ever, carry Protect, so it's a free Geyser into that slot. Whereas if Landorus Max Guards there, you lose so much. So that like Game 2 was like a flawless game by my opponent, honestly. Either way, that is going to be it with our time with this Alolan Marowak team. I'm not surprised that I was able to get to number 1 on the ladder. It is really consistent, and, you know, I love featuring all kinds of different teams on Road to Rank, right? Like, part of what I like to do is feature teams that are hyper-offensive, teams that are hyper-defensive, teams that are oriented more for best of 1, teams that are more oriented for best of 3, because at the end of the day, my goal is obviously to try to educate and also hopefully entertain you along the way, and I think that, you know, different teams fit different players with different play styles, and so this one was kind of a nice contrast to some of the teams that we've been using previously that were maybe a little bit more best of 1 oriented. This team just doesn't have that many tricks up its sleeve, right? But it doesn't need tricks up its sleeve because it is just really, really consistent. And so, yeah, I'm really pleased, you know, in our time using it. I think it's just really fun, but also just very, very consistent and very stable to use. And we got completely blown back in game 2. It was like a perfect game by my opponent. And I mean, I was just thinking about what we could have done better. But I do think Grim, Porygon, Marowak, Fini, where we like Eerie, Impulse, Porygon a bunch, set up screens, and then play towards a Marowak sweep later on is probably the best approach. It wouldn't have been easy by any means, especially because they had Incineroar for Intimidate, so you can cycle that in. And with Marowak, I didn't have a safe switch, right? Or safe play. Like, if I Max Quake into Incin, it can switch out into Celesteela. If I Max Flare into Steela, it can switch into Incin. And so, yeah, that second game was never going to be easy to win, but my opponent also just played so flawlessly that, like, it made me even look worse, right? But I have no shame in saying that, yeah, they just played a perfect game, and with a tough matchup in Pokemon, things are already going to be tricky, but your opponents also have to execute properly, and my opponent didn't just execute properly in that second game. Like, they passed with flying colors, especially the Geyser onto Grimmsnarl. Like, that was actually such a critical turn, and if they had Tunnel Vision into Geyser into Landorus, we actually would have had a significantly higher chance of winning that game. So that was like a game-winning target on their end. It's a safe one too, and I just think that a lot of players would often Tunnel Vision into a Landorus with an attack boost. So kudos to my opponent, especially in that second match. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much as always for watching. Don't forget to answer the question of the day. Leave a like if you enjoy. And yeah, details for the team are in the description below. So once again, feel free to try it out yourselves. I'll see you all next time. All right. Peace.